Welcome back for part 2 of our installation of the TeraFlex 3-inch spring lift for the Jeep JK.
If you have not done so already, remove the front track bar using a 21mm socket and loosen all the control arm bolts, but do not remove them at this time. Lift the vehicle and support it under the frame with jack stands. Make sure that the axle will drop far enough to remove and install coil springs. With the vehicle in the air, now remove the wheels. Remove the front shocks by using an 18mm wrench and socket at the axle side, and a 16mm ratchet wrench at the frame side. If the shock spins with the top nut, you can use a 5/8 wrench to hold the shock just below the shock mount. Ratchet wrenches work best for the top nut. Remove the sway bar links using an 18mm socket and wrench at the axle side, and an 18mm socket and 20mm wrench at the sway bar side. Note: on 2011 and newer models, the front brake lines are captured by a bracket that is bolted into the spring perch. The brake lines need to be removed from this bracket. In this installation, we will later be replacing these brake lines. Before lowering the axle, disconnect the clips that hold the wiring harness to the upper control arm mount and unplug your axle breather hose. Lower the jack enough to remove the springs. For our installation, we'll be using the TeraFlex SpeedBumps for our bump stops. Remove the front spring isolator. Measure down from the underside of the spring pocket 3.5 inches and mark the tube. Use tape to make a straight guide for cutting. It is crucial that your cut is straight and square so the speed bump sits flush inside the tube. Cut the tube along your line using an angle grinder or saw, being sure to cut straight. After cutting the tube, deburr the inner and outer edges of the tube using a half-round file. Test fit the front speed bump cylinders by sliding it up into the tube until it bottoms out. Check for a good fit between your speed bump and the cut factory tube. Make any adjustments if necessary.
In preparation for the speed bump block, drill out the center of your spring pad with a 3/8 drill bit. Check the bump stop block and hardware for proper fit, but do not install it at this time. The speed bump kit comes with different size spacers. Choose the spacer that works best for your application and also provides space at the top of the speed bump for the retaining clamp. Once you have a good fit, remove the cylinder from the tube and using silicone sealant, not adhesive, smear a film inside the top of the factory tube. And on the bottom of the speed bump above the machined lip. Install the speed bump into the factory tube, making sure the machined lip of the speed bump is touching the bottom of the tubing. Install the retaining clip on top of the speed bump by pressing up on the speed bump while tightening the Allen bolt. Note: vehicles with 4 to 6 inches of lift must retain the lower bump stop blocks. Slide the 1/2-inch spring spacer onto the bump stop tube, followed by the factory spring isolator.
Install the new 3-inch coil springs. Do the driver's side first. With your front springs in, slide your bump stop blocks into place and bolt them down using the provided hardware. Install the new sway bar links on the outside of the sway bar and the inside of the axle mount. Torque the sway bar links to 75 foot-pounds. Disconnect the factory brake line and replace them with the supplied braided brake lines. Be sure to use the new crush washers provided in the kit. Mount the upper portion of the brake line through the provided bracket and mount it to the frame of the vehicle using the factory 10mm bolt. Clip this brake line into place on the bracket. Use cable ties to tie the ABS wire and the brake lines together to keep them both in a safe position. Now install your front shocks. We chose to go with the upgraded Elka shocks offered by TeraFlex. On the passenger side of the vehicle, it may be necessary to cut away a little bit of the battery box to gain access to the shock hardware. Torque all the shock bolts to factory specs. Reinstall the wheels. Torque the lug nuts between 95 and 115 foot-pounds. Remove the jack stands, lower the vehicle onto its own weight, and torque all the control arm bolts. Torque the uppers to 75 foot-pounds and the lowers to 125 foot-pounds. Now install the rear track bar. There are 3 hole locations on the new track bar bracket. The lowest hole is for 2 to 3 inch lifts. The second hole is for 3 to 4 inch lifts. And the top hole is for 4 to 6 inch lifts. This is just a starting location alignment. Adjustments may have to be made to properly align the vehicle. Torque the track bar bolts to 125 foot-pounds. If purchased along with your kit, install your new adjustable front track bar. Torque the track bar bolts to 125 foot-pounds. With the track bar bolted in place, measure the distance from your wheels to your fender on both the left and right side of the vehicle. This measurement will let you know if the body is centered over the axle. If it is not, adjust the length of your track bar to center the body over the axle. Position the track bar clamps so that they will not interfere with any other components. To straighten the steering wheel, loosen the adjuster sleeve on the drag link by using a 15mm socket. Mark the position by making a line across the sleeve and the threads. This line will indicate the original position. Looking from the driver's side, rotate the adjuster sleeve counterclockwise. Every vehicle is different, so test drive yours to determine if yours needs further adjustment. Once the steering wheel is straight, torque the pinch clamp bolts to 45 foot-pounds.
Your lift installation is now complete. Be sure to retorque all fasteners after 300 miles.